Over the past half-century, the role of the juvenile justice system in murder cases involving adolescent criminals has evolved as one of the many social and political controversies in the United States. According to an ABCNews.com article written by Huma Khan, the Department of Justice estimates that a solid tenth of all homicides are committed by juvenile offenders less than 18 years of age, and the FBI arrests more than 33,000 juvenile offenders on a nearly annual basis. As mentioned in a 2001 article of Behavioral Sciences and the Law, put together by the heads of the Department of Psychology at SUNY Buffalo, the FBI's Uniform Crime Reports concluded that the proportion of arrests of juveniles sent directly into an adult court increased from 1% in 1973 to 5% in 1992. A 2009 article from the same journal illustrates the continuity of juvenile transfer to adult court, with participation from all 50 states. Though murder itself is a crucial issue, the idea that youth, even as young as 9 years old, should be held accountable for it shouldn't be enforced so literally. There is a vast amount of circumstances that may be considered in criminal trials in general, but today I will explain why juvenile offenders, namely murderers, should not be tried as adults. Firstly, there are a number of psychological and neurobiological factors that can affect an adolescent's way of thinking and patterns of impulse. Christopher Slobogin and Mark R. Fondacaro's Iowa Law Review article on methods of juvenile justice illustrates many of these factors. From a scientific perspective, adolescents' brains are less developed, and the frontal lobe of the brain controls cognitive functions and can alter methods of thinking. This is also the last part of the brain to develop. The limbic system plays a huge role in adolescent action as well. Adolescents are more impulsive, less future-oriented, and more subject to peer influence. Also mentioned in Slobogin and Fondacaro's Juvenile Justice, a fourth option, is research conducted by Elizabeth Kaufman and Lawrence Steinberg on psychosocial maturity of adolescents. This research, conducted on terms of responsibility, perspective, and temperance, concludes that adolescents have significantly lower self-reliance, less consideration of future consequences, and lower self-restraint. Juvenile murderers should not be tried as adults because of contextual factors as well. Things that may heavily affect an adolescent's course of action, like family, peers, school, community, and media, are all considerable factors in the case of a murder committed by a juvenile offender. Family plays a significant role in the context of murder. Parental involvement, poor parent-to-child communication, parental supervision or monitoring, abuse, emotional warmth, or a parent's personal characteristics can all play a major part in the increase of a juvenile's risk of delinquency. However, peer influence is even more influential in adolescent crime. Nicole Garberg and Terry Libkemans explain juveniles are more likely to commit crimes in groups. This is valid because adolescents are high risk for being influenced by others. Preteens to teenagers typically merge from parental influence and begin to rely on peers for issues of identity. Schools and home neighborhoods are also impactful as far as adolescent delinquency. A previous study recapped in Slobogin and Fondacaro's article exemplifies this claim with the risk of delinquency posed by impulsive boys in poor neighborhoods. When considering what should be done with juvenile offenders, other methods of treatment should be addressed. Slobogin and Fondacaro address 4 distinct methods of confronting adolescent delinquency. The idea that adolescents should be held as responsible for their crimes as an adult criminal is central to a method of confrontation of this issue called adult retribution. Adult retribution supports the idea that adolescents who commit crimes are responsible and should be punished as mature adults. But what about the select few battered children who become incarcerated for 5 shots to their mother or father's head and back while they have their heads turned? Is this method just as justifiable for those victims as well as victims of constant bullying from their peers? The adult retribution method may have validity in cases such as Cameron Williams, a 15-year-old who shot a police officer after being chased and pulled over with 2 young men. It all depends on the various circumstances. Another method to be considered is the rehabilitation method, which makes for the separate juvenile court that treats juvenile offenders as innocent beings who can be saved and reformed into distinguished human beings. For a 17-year-old on trial for murder, this may not be the best option. However, a 9-year-old sociopathic animal killer may be a different story. The diminished retribution method implies that adolescent criminals are neither innocent nor guilty, however accountable due to their age. The individual prevention method, which serves as a theme for Solbagen and Fondacaro's review, works to avoid the severity of adult punishments and to prevent future crimes. This type of treatment would involve heavy intervention from an adolescent's community. All in all, juveniles should be treated as such. Despite the many studies and the work of many researchers pertaining to this issue, I feel that juvenile treatment, whether rehabilitation methods or intervention prevention methods, would be the best option, since it is more likely that an adolescent murderer may be based on psychological factors. Because there is no fixed age in correlation with assumed maturity, morality, or impulsivity, many states that have laws in favor of transfer jurisdiction have a range of ages that cannot specifically be associated with circumstances of one type of murder. This does not mean, however, that if a 16 or 17-year-old committed a thoughtless murder of a peer or an armed robbery resulting in someone's death, that he or she should receive the same treatment as a 10 or an 11-year-old offender. Depending on the circumstances of each individual case, there should be more and better methods of dealing with juveniles who commit adult crimes. Thank you.